back, everybody, to TARTLEcast. We've been, it's been pretty heated these past couple episodes with talking about data and political regimes. So I want to go over this really awesome thing that Jason had put together from the IEP, which is the Institute for Economics and Peace. It's interesting. Economics is an interesting way to take things. People pay attention, like you said, Jason, when money's involved.
Yeah, Alex, and I think this is, I love the way that they did this report, and I encourage people to go online and read about it if you're interested. It's like 63 pages, and you can just click on it right there and download it. But the Institute for Economics and Peace, they said this: let's see how much it's going to, let's do some research and see how much it's going to cost each country, their GDP, for having violence, and then let's look at the percentages of violence. And then let's go over the categories of whether it's homicide, suicide, terrorism, whatever it may be, internal, not only just military for external, but internal police force. Yeah. And let's see how much it's going to cost that individual.
They used many indicators, and there was a pretty good balance between direct indicators,
right,
and indirect. Mm-hmm. And the combination of these fed into their model, and this was some of the findings that we're looking at with what that data was telling them and its impact on the economies.
Yeah, and I want to kind of get into their key findings. Number one was conceptual background.
Yep.
So the global economic impact of violence is defined as the expenditure. That's a key word. So how much money are we actually spending? Not where we're estimating, but we're actually spent. Expenditure and economic effect related to, and this is key to defining this. That's why I love that they made things ultra clear. Containing, preventing, and dealing with the consequences of violence.
Yeah, containing, preventing, and dealing with the consequence. So it's not stopping violence.
Because we don't care.
It's about what happens
we
after
want shareholder profit
committed.
now. We don't care about the consequences of it.
Yeah.
As long as last quarter was great.
So their focus is, well, what happens if they're like, in their mindset with their data, they're like, people are going to commit violence regardless. Mm-hmm. So how do we deal with it after the fact when violence has been committed? And so then they begin to look at that data and what effect does that data actually then begin to have? And how does that sit into that key finding?
Yeah. And they said for every violent death, there are up to 40 times as many injuries that require medical attention, incur hospitalization costs, and result in lost productivity from the victim.
Well, yeah, of course. If I'm in the hospital, if I'm diseased, if my legs are broken, I've been shot, whatever it is,
yes,
some area of violence or aggressive force, Aussertung or Gewalt is what you would want to call it, might of force, from the German standpoint, is that I'm inoperable to work. You've put me in a mental state that doesn't allow for me to create any sort of productivity for myself, the locale that I live in, or the country as a whole, okay? My hands don't work. I mean, what's OSHA going to do when I walk in and I got no freaking hands? And they're like, how'd you get this injury? Is it work-related? And it's like, actually, no. There's a lot of violence in my country. We have all these nationalist groups, and I got, my hands chopped off by whatever one, okay? So the cost of taking one person out of that system, out of that, them being a cog in this major wheel, is going to have dramatic effects. That wheel is going to turn slower.
Yeah, it was crazy in the report. They talked about Syria, and it cost an average of $1,800 per person for them to have their conflict now.
That is unbelievable.
Think about that, bro. $1,800 per person a month.
So here's the thought. They think that having a conflict is going to have some sort of victor at the end. Both sides are losing. You're crippling your economy and the people within it.
Yes.
The long-term effects, psychological effects with that the data is showing, and the material effects of the person's body and the economic effects, no one's a winner.
Right.
And the smart people are the ones that win off of violence. Insurance companies, people that make weapons.
Right.
Defense budgets, right? There's a cost involved. $14.4 trillion is the cost involved with violence. When there's a cost involved, somebody has to get paid. I'm giving you a bill for the violence. Mm-hmm. So somebody's in the business of making money off of violence. But for the greater good of everybody, that cost, first of all, imagine what you could do with $14.4 trillion, elevating people.
I guarantee you could solve one of the big seven with $14.4 trillion.
For $14.4 trillion, we could probably solve 3 out of the big 7.
Yeah.
Maybe 4, right? And so if we look at this conceptually, the data is showing that regardless, The economic impact is huge, but the long-term effects on the human being, what this data is showing, is so dramatic. And there's no victor when it comes to violence.
Yeah, they said the direct and indirect costs that erode economic development, increase instability, increase inequality, and erode human capital.
Yeah, it erodes, human capital. If you look at human beings as cattle, okay, I had 10,000 heads of cattle, and I'm producing this much milk. I've lost 80%. I have 2,000 cows left. I'm only producing this much milk, which means I'm only going to make this much money this year. That's your economy in its simplicity, if you look at human capital and that function.
This is shocking how they broke this down. This is section 2, the economic impact of violence. So I know we're talking about that, but let's get specific. You mentioned the 14.4 trillion in 2019. They said that's equivalent to 10.5% of global GDP, or $1,895 per person.
Yeah, so
you take all the billions.
Every time a body is shot in some sort of conflict, some sort of violence that happens, I'm going to take $1,000 out of your pocket. Jason, if you went to every hardworking union guy doing whatever he's doing and you told him, hey, just want to let you know, the conflict that's going on in Somalia, because, your government's involved with it, is costing you $1,600 a year. He's like, are you kidding me? That's car payments.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mortgage payment for that guy. But when you think in your mind, it's like, violence has no effect on me. What's going on? What the data is showing, what's going on in these, depressed countries in Africa, where human rights are it's a total travesty and there's just tons of violence. That doesn't have an effect on me because I'm not located there. Well, guess what? It has a very negative economic effect on what's going on with you here in the United States.
Yeah, and it's crazy. The 10 highest economic costs of violence. So there's the 10 countries that have the highest violence right now. The violence cost was 36.4% of their GDP. Where the 10 most peaceful countries, which are like Sweden, Iceland, those areas, the average cost was 3.9% of their GDP. So we go from 36.4 to 3.9%. That difference, I mean, you could change.
That's a 34% change.
That 34% of money, you could change a whole educational system in a country.
34% of a GDP, you could change multiple education systems.
Yes.
Just on violence alone, you can come and give everybody in the United States free education at any college they wanted to go to for a very long time. That's insane. And, when we look at these direct and indirect indicators, okay, they're looking at it from an observational standpoint of all these things that people are, that countries are reporting, insurance companies are reporting, financials are reporting, businesses are reporting. The thing that's missed, even though they see the end game impact on the person from an economic standpoint, the indicator they're missing is the indicator from those individuals in those countries. So I would give a shout out to the IEP and be like, IEP, have you considered using TARTLE so you can actually ask the people that are most dramatically affected by this violence, what is going on with them? You've looked at it from a third party with third-party data. Now let's look at some primary source data about how this is really affecting you. Talk about the value of that report then beyond the emotional impact of violence when you say, we've actually spoken with the people in that country. I know exactly what's going on in the mental states, behaviors, labors, anything that's going on in the economic impact at the level of the people inside of their house, rather than just listening to a business or insurance company that's making money off of it.
Yeah, getting real granular and speaking to the people to receive truth.
Right, and that's elevating to them. Oh, and by the way, you can share earnings to those people. So if you realize how important it is to give them some sort of economic impact back, if they're being economically deprived from violence, IEP, TARTLE may be your best tool to go and actually acquire.
Yes.
For using it for research.
We always gloss over statistics and we just kind of listen to them real quick, but I want people to get the statistic. I'm going to say this twice just so people understand. A 2% reduction in the impact of violence. Just a 2% reduction in the globe. A 2% is roughly equivalent to all overseas development aid.
Dude, what is 2%?
A 2% decrease, Alex.
What's 2% of 14.4 trillion?
Yes.
Of course it's all overseas aid because it's insignificant comparative to all the amount of profiteering that happens off of violence. 2%.
2% is equivalent to what everybody's good heart is giving to help a lot of these third world countries.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. When it's actually global peace, which is number 4 on our big 7, is, and this is what I want to get into. I know we've gone on to these statistics, but they have and this is so beautiful.
This is how they see the world.
The pillars of positive peace.
Yeah.
Positive peace is predicted on 8 key factors or pillars that describe the working of socio-economic systems.
We're close.
Yes, we're close.
We're close.
Number 1 is a well-functioning government.
Oh, look at that. Government and corporate transparency.
Yeah, and then I'm going to kind of go through these quickly, and I think I think we should do a global peace episode based off of these. But we'll go quickly now for the sake of time. And then we're going to do another one, guys, just on these pillars of positive peace.
Yeah, go ahead. Just round them out, and then we'll close it out and do another episode.
Sound business environment, acceptance of the rights of others, good relations with neighbors, a free flow of information. That's our favorite pillar. High levels of human capital.
Yep.
Love that one. Low levels of corruption.
Oh, so less dead people and less corruption. That makes a lot of sense.
That speaks to our government and corporate transportation.
And also public health.
Yes.
People that are alive and not, filled with lead, that's probably a good thing.
Because I want to talk about each of these because we could go on each of these. But the next one is the last one of the pillars of positive peace is equitable distribution of resources.
Wow. Economic equalization, number 7. Do you have access to banking? No? Well, let's get you some. You know?
Exactly.
I'm not saying everybody should be paid the same. I'm not talking about a socialist world. I'm just saying, do you have the opportunity to get this when you shouldn't have been redlined? No? Okay, well, let's fix that. Right?
This is so amazing and so beautiful. And I just want to thank, I thought
really,
this was a great
I want to thank
report.
IEP.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, it's fabulous. And I think it's a step in the right direction.
Yes.
And they can elevate it even more with their data sets to have something that is so freaking pungent, they should charge 10 times the cost for it.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And let everybody know that violence costs.
Yeah, violence is not free.
It's not free. So don't be violent.
Yeah, don't
be nice.
Just be a
good
all be person.
Nice? Yeah.
Stop shooting each other.
Yeah.
Can we stop shooting each other?
Who cares who this person in office is or not?
Yeah. Can we not machete someone's arm off?
Yeah, exactly.
Can we, violence, they only had violence here geared towards human beings. What about violence towards animals?
Yes.
What about violence towards ecosystems?
Yeah.
Hello.
How much does that cost?
How much does that cost? Oh, I tell you what it costs you. 7 billion people's lives in 50 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Violence towards an ecosystem. Snap.
It's just violence in general. Let's just be peaceful.
Don't be violent.
We have this one meat suit, so let's do it.
Yeah, let's make it last.
Yes.
Don't put holes in it.
No holes.
No hole free.